Tonight in CVM News at 7, Councillor's car vandalized ahead of Westmoreland runoff. 3 in custody following Kingston kidnapping. Experts doubt Caribbean Basin Initiative renewal amidst tariff battle. We have a flashback, another inspired Jamaica success story, autism the focus. And in sports, Windies women win thriller in Lahore. Hello from Kingston, Jamaica. This is CVM News at 7, the weekend edition for Saturday, April 12, 2025. I am Curlin Brown. Thanks so much for joining us. 3 men are now in police custody in connection with several crimes, including the kidnapping and aggravated robbery of 2 women in Harbourview, Kingston on Tuesday, April 8. Reports are the women were taken against their will after entering a taxi on their way to work. The men in the vehicle brandished firearms and robbed the victims of their phones, cash and bank cards. The women were later released in Barrett Hall, St. Andrew, where they were rescued by the St. Andrew South Police. Swift action by the Kingston Central Police with the support of the Police Emergency Control Centre, PEC, the National Strategic and Anti-Gang Division, NSAD, and the Major Organised Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA, led to the arrest of the men after detectives launched an investigation which identified a Toyota Probox as the vehicle believed to have been used in the crime. The Kingston Central Police intercepted the vehicle in the East Parade area of downtown Kingston and apprehended 3 males. A search of the suspects' properties by NSAD, along with a search of the vehicle by the Caribbean Search Centre, uncovered several items, including 1 black Glock 19 pistol, assorted rounds, 2 imitation firearms as well. Investigators attached to the Little London police station in Westmoreland have launched an investigation into Friday night's incident where a motor vehicle owned by Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Sheffield Division, Garfield James, was vandalized and broken into. A day leading up to Sunday's political runoff between Councillor James and JLP Member of Parliament Morland Wilson. Police source told CVM News the incident took place at a location in the Sheffield community where James and dozens of his delegates were celebrating an after-party following a successful campaign tour of the constituency. The police further notes this incident is being treated as any other motor vehicle break-in, despite Councillor James making a report to the Whithorn police. The officer states the perpetrators could have been up to political mischief, or maybe they were of the belief Councillor James was travelling with cash on his campaign, which could have also been their target. The officer was unable to say if cash or valuables were stolen from the vehicle. Councillor Garfield James, who is also presently the principal at the Little London High School in Westmoreland, is going up against sitting Member of Parliament Morland Wilson in a runoff election slated for the Little London and Grange Hill High Schools from 12 noon to 4 p.m. tomorrow. James, who recently crossed over from the People's National Party, where he also served as councillor for the Sheffield Division, emerged victorious in the recent local government election on the JLP ticket. Now, the JLP representative for the Western Westmoreland seat will likely be against the People's National Party's candidate, Ian Hales, in the upcoming general election. With global trade tension climbing between the US and China, there are more questions about how Jamaica's economy could be caught up in the crossfire. While the tariff war plays out between the world's 2 largest economies, experts here are watching for ripple effects, especially when it comes to Jamaica's trade future with the US. Here's our reporter Shantae McNeil with more.
As the U.S.-China trade war escalates, international trade specialist Dania Ashpole shares concerns that the Caribbean Basin Initiative, CBI, could lose priority amid the global economic tension. Under the CBI, products from most Caribbean countries enter the U.S. under preferential arrangements.
The CBI operates because there is a waiver from the WTO, because it's non-reciprocal. And if we listen to President Trump, he's targeting reciprocity. And that is due for renewal in September of this year. Now, with this America First posture, what you may see is that priority may not be placed on the renewal of the CBI.
Right.
And so that is something that I'm watching certainly very closely.
The warning comes as China on Friday raised tariffs on U.S. goods to 125%, its third retaliation in a deepening trade war. The move followed a decision by the Trump administration to hike tariffs on Chinese imports to at least 145%. But back home, Industry Minister Senator Auburn Hill struck a more optimistic tone during Wednesday's post-cabinet briefing. He says even if the CBI isn't renewed, Jamaica could still have a competitive edge.
If that happens, we then have to say who else is in the 10% category, because the lowest one. And any of those in that 10% category, do they sell the stuff that we sell to the United States? Some may, but they may actually be located in Africa or Asia. We then have clearly a competitive advantage from location, the geographic location.
He added that Jamaica has been building economic resilience, ready for any challenges that may arise.
We have been able to overcome the pandemic. We didn't raise taxes, we didn't borrow any more money to do it, and in fact, we've had, through that entire period of time, 10 consecutive budgets without any raising of taxes. So we think we're in a position to be wise enough not to get into that war. We're not getting into it. We're quietly, silently, strategically looking at how best we get through this with the benefit of Jamaicans at the tip.
Shante McNeil, CVM News.
A partnership between the National Housing Trust, the NHT, and private developers is how the government plans to stem the housing crisis in the country. While breaking ground in Barrett Hall, St. James, Prime Minister Andrew Holness explains the government's intentions and this particular development. Here's more from Marjorie Gordon.
Making home ownership accessible for all Jamaicans. That's how Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is describing the soon-to-be constructed Barrett Hall housing development. Speaking at the recent groundbreaking ceremony, the Prime Minister said the new housing development in St. James is a symbol of the government's unwavering commitment to expanding home ownership opportunities, especially for Jamaicans who need it most. Dr. Holness said the project will be executed under the National Housing Trust NHT's Developers Program, a mechanism designed to speed up the delivery of quality, affordable homes across the country. He said through the program, the NHT will partner with developers to construct housing solutions on lands owned by the NHT. The developer will then execute the project, after which 80% of the housing solutions will then be sold back to the NHT at an agreed price, which will allow improved affordability for contributors. The Prime Minister said low-income earners are set to benefit.
A minimum of 60% of these solutions must be affordable to the NHT's lowest income earners. That is not just a clause in a contract. It is a commitment to the working class families who keep this country going. The teachers, police officers, farmers, hospitality workers in particular, the tourism workers, who I'm sure will be eyeing this development very keenly.
Prime Minister Holness also said that although the housing market is complex, the government is trying to find different measures to ensure the demand is satisfied.
Barrett Hall sits within reach of the growing tourism belt along the North Coast, giving homeowners access to jobs, education, and commerce. We are creating not only a place for people to live, but we are trying to create a vibrant, well-connected community where people can thrive.
The Barrett Hall housing development on completion will comprise 1,565 housing solutions. Marjorie Gordon, CVM News.
The St. Elizabeth Infirmary has a new ambulance to support the work being done at the facility. The emergency vehicle was made possible by the Culture, Health, Arts, Sports and Education Chase Fund. Chief Executive Officer at the fund, Wilfred Billyhaven, explains more on what this means for the community.
This occasion represents more than the handing over of an ambulance. It is an indication of how much we care. It's an indication of the service that we want to provide for the most vulnerable in our society.
Now, according to the CEO, the fund is pleased to play its role in helping the country's less fortunate, pointing out that residents at infirmaries, including those in St. Elizabeth, have numerous health challenges. Hence, the vehicle is crucial for their survival.
Infirmary residents often live with multiple health issues, multiple health challenges, and it depends on timely and specialized care to really bring them back to where they ought to be. This ambulance is intended to ensure that we provide the service that they need as the needs arise in safe, reliable transportation mode, and that is available here on spot, whether it be for diagnostic, whether it be for emergency care or hospital visit, it doesn't matter. The ambulance is here to provide that service.
The project involves the purchasing of 2 ambulances at a cost of $33.6 million. The second one is to be handed over to the parish of Portland soon. Now, as the peak time for carnival activities draw closer and the Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, warning organisers to get proper approval for their planned activities, Adrian Williams got this feedback.
As Jamaica draws closer to the Carnival week of activities, culminating with a road march on Carnival Sunday this year on April 27, Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, is urging all party promoters of Carnival events, including watch parties, to ensure they apply and get approval for their amusement license.
We are reminded that all watch party and soca party promoters that they must apply for their amusement license by April 11th, 2025, and provide the necessary requirements including insurance and fire certificates, site layout, the KSA Health Department no objection letter if food is being served.
After concerns last year re waste disposal, the mayor implores the promoters to have the requisite plans in place to avoid this challenge.
Additionally, proper arrangement must be in place for waste disposal as they run the risk of their permit not being approved.
With the application period ending soon, only 3 carnival bands have applied for their permit.
The KSAMC received all band routes and all amusement license application from Exodus, Yardmas, and Gen X Band. These applications are currently under review by the City Engineer Officer, the Disaster Management Unit, and the Revenue Team to ensure compliance.
Juve promoters are also expected to ensure that water trucks are engaged to wash away paint from the public thoroughfare as the parade progresses. Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
And the CVM News will continue in a moment.
TV, in association with Express Fitness and Exodus Carnival, presents Fit for Fet, the ultimate workout series to get your body ready for the road. Tune in 5 a.m. every morning, Mondays to Fridays, starting April 7th, to get involved in high-impact workouts by some of the best in the game. Bring your mats, bring your water, and let's get fit for the fit with Express Fitness and Exodus Carnival, powered by CVM TV.
Jamaica is on a transformative path, and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and its agencies are leading the way. MEGJC Matrix is back for Season 2, bringing you the latest on the projects shaping our nation's future. Big changes, bold moves. This is the Season 2 of the MEGJC Matrix, driving development, transforming lives.
Into spring with Sunrise. Miss Kitty and Dennis will get rich biblically in Money Masterclass, brought to you by Guardian Life. Then we heat things up in Breakfast is Served with Island Grill, and we'll wrap things up with some conscious rhythms with Jessie Royal. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Sports should be fun. Sports should be interesting. Sports should be entertaining. Sports should be riveting. This is CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Freight.
We are back for Season 2 of Corner Office. We are highlighting small businesses, hard-working Jamaicans who are doing their own thing in their own spaces. People who are in their role, bossing up their role.
Let's go!
Let's get it! It's not if you own the company or not, it's how you own the role. Ice cream is coming. Guess what? It is your Corner Office. Season 2, bigger and better. And guess what? You don't think it's not yet? Check it out. Put the end of the place. Undercover. Easy yourself.
Welcome back to CVM News at 7. Time now for our regional and international news.
We begin with news in the region. As the United States and China continue to exchange blows in a tariff war on goods traded between them, an economist predicts that increased prices on local imports could eat into Barbados' foreign exchange reserves and drive up the cost of providing services. We hear more from CBC News Barbados.
For spending over $700 million to import goods into Barbados, any change in the tariff for a portion of those goods is going to mean that $700 million might go up to $800, might go up to $900 million unless we reduce our consumption. So it might either mean spending more foreign exchange, or it might mean reducing our consumption as well. Financial services sector, for example, if they are considering building a new head office, a lot of the inputs into that new head office might be imported from outside of Barbados, and therefore the costs that they might now see or they might now incur given this trade war might be higher. So it has impacts on say, a financial services company. And tourism is also a great example. When I'm building my tourism establishment, a lot of the inputs into that tourism establishment are imported.
Prime Minister Stuart Young is sharpening the PNM's message, targeting misinformation, defending the government's economic choices, and promising more efficient public services. Speaking at a public meeting in San Juan on Friday, the Prime Minister called on voters to stay vigilant. More from TTT News.
I am warning us here in Trinidad and Tobago, do not let Cambridge Analytica 2.0 take root in Trinidad and Tobago, because what is insulting, what I find offensive as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and the person who cares about Trinidad and Tobago is the way that they're going about trying to mislead this population.
The Prime Minister alleged coordinated online threats from opposition supporters and condemned what he described as a campaign fueled by division.
They are recruiting our young black men and our young black girls, paying them $40,000 and putting them there in yellow is the code to attack PNM. And I am wondering, why is it that they are using racism as usual as part of their campaign?
He also announced an increase in book grant allocations along with a revision of the means test for social support programs.
And in international news, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has pledged to ensure delivery of water for Texas farmers. That's after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened additional tariffs or sanctions over a shared water treaty, which he says Mexico has failed to comply with. We hear more from Al Jazeera.
These waters along the U.S.-Mexico border are the latest source of conflict for U.S. President Donald Trump in trade negotiations with Mexico. Under a 1944 treaty involving several shared rivers and reservoirs, every 5 years Mexico must send 2.1 billion cubic meters of water to the U.S. from the Rio Grande. That's the equivalent of some 860,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. But according to the International Boundary and Water Commission, over the last 5 years, Mexico has sent less than 30% of the required amount. In a post on Thursday, Trump threatened to impose further tariffs on Mexico if the remaining water isn't delivered, adding he'd even consider sanctions. The U.S. has already withheld its own water delivery commitments to Mexico in retaliation. The Mexican president admits her country hasn't been able to meet its commitments, but says there simply isn't enough water to send.
Pues tiene que ver con la disponibilidad del agua.
It all has to do with availability. Yes, there are so many million cubic meters that we have to send, but if there is no water, how do you send it? That's why we're looking at the technical side, especially when it comes to irrigation systems that can reduce how much water is needed to help resolve this issue.
And that's it for regional and international news.
Autism awareness was recently observed internationally, and so Inspire Jamaica wants to look back this evening on one of the success stories here on the island. We feature the Alains and their son, who is now a teenager. He continues to make strides, but the family had to face the challenges as soon as he got the diagnosis when he was only 3 years old, and they worked through the hurdles step by step.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can.
We started reading a little when we had the suspicions and stuff. So we weren't too surprised, but to say we were disappointed, yeah, that's not what we really wanted. That's not what we were looking for. But you know, my husband and I, we always have our little board meetings and we always talk about important things that affect our family. So when we sat in one of our board meetings and we started talking about this, my husband said, you know, he gave me that reassurance. The one who in tears and everything, but my husband said, listen, this is not your problem. This is our problem. I ain't going anywhere. You know, I'm going to be right here with you. Because you see, here's what, Curlin. One of the things that is being told is that nearly 40% of persons with children on the spectrum, they're separated after a while. So I had that fear if my marriage was going to be in problem. But he gave me that blessed assurance, you know. My husband is mine.
Having further sealed their vows for each other and their offspring, the couple, now 6 years into marriage, also agreed to remain steadfast to the highest source of unconditional love.
I tell you something, Curlin. One of the things I said to my husband at that table, if it is his will, it's going to be his bill. And if it's his choice, it's going to be his invoice. And let me tell you, up until today, the Lord has honored his bill and pay every invoice. Because it's not cheap.
The other thing too, I mean, our faith plays a huge role in our approach to to the whole condition, the whole situation. I can say because of our faith, we have had an approach that has yielded results, right?
Relocating from their home in Montego Bay to where they could access treatment and therapy for Alex is just the beginning of the testimony for these professionals. Challenges to include wading through what seemed like an obsession with water, to discovering it was his love language, to paying attention to the pros and the cons.
And God ordained that we should have been in Kingston so that, we could have landed jobs and be able to finance the challenges.
Challenges to include wading through what seemed like an obsession with water, to discovering it was his love language, to paying attention to the pros and the cons.
We get him into swimming, and one of the main reasons we get him into swimming because he has always been just flooding out our house. He will just turn on the pipe and just have water running up and down all over the place, and you get up even in the middle of the night and the whole place wet up and stuff, right? So we just send him to swimming and say, listen, we don't know if he's going to be able to swim, but just make him go, just go on in the water so that when he come home, we can have like a peace of mind with the pipe.
I want to add though with the swimming is that a high percentage of children on the spectrum die on an annual basis as a result of drowning.
Mm-hmm.
So having learned of that statistic, we were more adamant that we need to have Alex Xavier in a program that he'll learn to swim, he can manage himself. As a matter of fact, Alex Xavier does better than his mom and his dad in the pool.
It was after spending huge sums on speech and applied behavior analysis ABA therapy, Autism Edge, an online home intervention program was born with 1 star, Alex Xavier Alain.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can.
Ronaldo Adams is very ready with your sports. He'll be with you right after this.
Today's episode highlights the incredible work of the Factories Corporation of Jamaica. I am happy that the people of St. Thomas are finally getting what they deserve. The FCJ here on McJC Matrix.
People, we now waste no time.
I am super excited to be on for another season to show you the Holy Road.
Listen, new adventures. Slim, Fluffy. Let's go. We're not going out, Things are only getting hotter and hotter this season.
Click, pow. That must tell you something.
There's a great story happening just in our backyard. We are on the Holy Road again.
Where the difference is made, where titles are decided, where respect is earned. Excel here and you could go down in history. It's the final third. CVM TV's weekly JPL preview show every Sunday, starting 30 minutes before our live broadcast. Get insight, analysis, and hear from your favorite players weekly, just before we bring you our feature broadcast for the day. Move from defense to attack and join us in the final third. This and every Sunday until the end of the JPL season.
Into spring with Sunrise. Miss Kitty and Dennis will get rich biblically in Money Masterclass, brought to you by Guardian Life. Then we heat things up in Breakfast is Served with Island Grill, and we'll wrap things up with some conscious rhythms with Jesse Boy.